this is your first English language film.
That's right.
So how did you manage, how did you cope with that transition, if there was anything indeed for you to cope with?
Um, I wasn't sure if there was so much of a transition actually. I grew up in Singapore. Singapore was a British colony. English has always been, what we've been speaking at home. Of course, there is quite a bit of sort of cultural difference in terms of the story. It's really a story about an African refugee, and it's set in Greece, of which its background culturally it's so far apart from any of my previous films, which were mostly
Yeah,
set in Singapore and Asia.
yeah,
But I like to think that the film is very universal. The story is very universal, and it's quite an interesting experience making this because it felt like an international village of sort of collaborators who all believe in the story. We had literally cast and crew from America, from the UK, from Greece, from France, and it was really special. It felt like it needed a whole international village of people to come and tell this very universal story of displacement. And I think this idea of displacement is very, very current in this time and age.
yeah, yeah. Now, your previous films, you have written your own scripts, which you obviously directed. This is a bit of a first for you, I think, having directing someone else's script. How did that come about?
I was, like sent the materials for like the original novel, written by Alexander Maxick, and the novel was called A Marker to Measure Drift. And this film was really adapted from his novel. So I was sent his novel and a very, very early version of the script that the novelist, Alexander has written. And together with the producers, we felt like we needed to move forwards with it, to find another voice to bring it to the screen. And we found this lovely British-Irish writer, Susie Farrell. And I still remember I met her for the first time, having read her samples at the restaurant at BAFTA at the start of 2020. And then, shortly after the pandemic came, and we were literally working throughout the pandemic. It was quite, I would say, a cathartic and very emotional experience because
Yeah,
uh, Susie and I will be, on Skype almost every day. We'll be talking for 2 hours, talking about scenes, talking about character, and then she would go off and write pages, and then she'd come back, and I'll read the pages, and we'll go through it again, and we'll talk. So in a way, even though this is the first time I've worked on a film where I've not written, a single word on the page, but it was very, very collaborative. And I felt like every beat, you'd feel when you see this film, every beat in the film, every mise en scène, it feels like a singular vision. I think, I had such lovely collaborators on this. And um, I have to say it was a very, very emotional experience because I think because of the pandemic as well and the
yeah,
story that we're dealing with, somehow, you know, you're putting a lot of your own emotions. It really felt like the end of the world at that time, right? And a
yeah.
lot of these personal emotions sort of, fell into the telling of the story.
I like the structure of it in terms of the flashbacks reveal kind of how has she come to this situation in her life, and then certainly towards the end, there's this very troubling and quite upsetting scene with the boy soldiers. How do you go about sort of handling a scene like that with the children, and in terms of what the content of the scene is as well?
Well, yes, it is a huge reveal, but at the same time, I thought it was very important to tell that reveal through the subjective experience of Jacqueline. So if you were to look at the scene, the camera is either from the point of view of Jacqueline, it's everything that she experienced, everything that she sees or the camera is on her. We are literally, as an audience member, we are reliving not just her memories, but her very, very subjective sort of traumatic experience. I thought it was very important to do that. I didn't want to sort of overtly sort of make it exploitative or anything, like in fact, I shot it for what it is. I think it was tough, but I I think I think we are very, very sort of like restrained and we are very, very careful when we shot the scenes. But when we eventually put it together, I think all of us were astounded by um how visceral and that impact could be. Um, and I guess that very visceral, I'm a very, very sort of like quiet and gentle filmmaker. So, even as I was shooting the scene, I expected it to have that restraint as well. But when you put it together, you're quite surprised by how impactful and how visceral that it became. But I think it needed to be that
Yeah,
because I think there's no way we could shy away from it. And I was very, very careful as well in crafting, whether on developing the screenplay or executing it, the flashbacks. We didn't want it to almost feel like it was just lots of exposition and it started to feel like a flashback from a very stereotypical sort of biopic.
yeah.
For me, it was very important that it was vignettes and flashes of her memory, and in a way, just like she's got this drifting existence, on this island in Greece, but I believe her when she says that um you know that her memory is quite fuzzy. And I do believe that because I feel like that sort of trauma sort of, yeah, you
Uh-huh.
sort of are living in that conscious and subconscious state, and you're
Yeah.
still figuring out what have you, what have you gone through, and what are you going through right now.
So on a lighter note, I haven't done something that's quite heavy. On a lighter note, watching the credits, I was astonished by the immense list of credits for tourists. And I'm just wondering, did you have the production assistants chasing everyone on the beach to sign a waiver for that?
Well, all the tourists that we have were planted, so they were all extras. We
Ah,
shot
right.
in Greece in early spring, so a lot of the tavernas were not open. The beaches were still closed. The water is probably too cold for swimming. So we had to literally bring in tourists. We had to literally fill up that beach. So I'm very, very thankful. I had a great assistant director. We had, a great casting team in Greece as well. But all that sort of techie tourism that you see was actually planted. And we tried to be as faithful to that real summary experience as we can.
And then finally, Anthony, obviously your foreign language films are now an English language film. Next up, Hollywood.
Well, I don't know. I just hope to be, like still telling stories, and I feel what is important is that if you were to look at all my work, it's always about um, discovering and reflecting upon the human condition. I think that would always be. I see myself as a humanist filmmaker, and I think that's my calling as a filmmaker. Um, I don't know. I feel I'm trying to figure out as well, if I'm a good fit for Hollywood, because drama seem to be a dirty word these days,
Yeah,
and if you look at all my films, I've only been making dramas, I'm trying to figure, like a way out myself as well as a filmmaker, like how do you get, like audiences to sort of go into the cinema to watch these sort of like gentle, restrained, sort of delicate films that I'm making. And um, I don't know, but I'm always, like pushing myself in different ways, and we'll see what the
That's great.
future brings.
Thanks, Anthony. Well, I very much look forward to seeing your next film, and congratulations on Drift. It's